build things from scratch. One of those things is our governance structure, is our infrastructure, and everything that has to do with government. In building Liberia, we need the collective effort and support of all citizens and even non-citizens, from those that are in the diaspora to those right back home in Liberia. Tonight, I have invited some young Liberian professionals in the United States to discuss first their career as successful Liberians in the diaspora, and also their role, what role they can play in rebuilding Liberia. With me, I have invited Ms. Taniqua Ross. Ms. Taniqua Ross is a journalist. She is a young Liberian professional. Taniqua obtained a Bachelor of Science in Journalism from Georgia Southern University. She has over 3 years of journalism experience, reporting and editing for local magazines, newspaper, and digital media outlets. Taniqua currently works as a social media marketing manager and as the creator and editor-in-chief of a personal fashion blog, knuckles-guishard.com. She is also pursuing a Master's of Communication from Rutgers University, New Brunswick, New Jersey. In addition to her academic and professional ventures, Taniqua serves as the chairperson for the Liberian Association of Metropolitan Atlanta Education Committee. Through her experience in faith, communication, and education, Taniqua hopes to one day go back home and use her skills to help educate and empower young Liberian women. Taniqua, welcome to Focus on Liberia. It should be noted that Taniqua was born right here in the United States. Also with me, I have another Liberian who was born in Liberia but came to the United States at a younger age. Mr. Yawan Bato is an electrical engineer. Yawan has a Bachelor of Science in Electrical Engineering from Kennesaw State University. He works as an electrical or application engineer for Alpha Industrial Power. Yawan, welcome to Focus on Liberia.
Thank you, Dennis.
It is my pleasure to have you and us as a successful young Liberians here in the United States. I first want to besides, even though I read your profile, but if there is anything else that you can add, what else do you do besides your being an electrical engineer and working for Alpha Industrial Power? Yeah.
First and foremost, I want to thank you for creating such a platform that concentrates on young Liberian professionals. Besides working for Alpha, mainly most of the time I read articles. I'm part of IEEE, which is Institute of Electronic and Electrical Engineer. So I tend to keep myself abreast with a lot of the new technologies. At one time, I was very involved with the Liberian community, but I kind of stayed back a little bit because I want to concentrate on myself. When I say myself, to develop myself professionally. I love watching soccer, English Premier League in the morning, and then reading. That's in short.
Thank you, Yawan. And Taniqua, besides you being in the communication, I also understand that you're a pastor.
Yes, I am a minister. Right now I serve on the ministerial board at United Christian Assembly Church, Georgia. You can find me there on Sundays. But outside of that, I also enjoy reading like Yawan. I enjoy cooking, traveling, and those are the kind of things that I try to indulge in outside of work and my studies.
And I'm very excited to have you all here. And in our first segment, we have Yawan, who is an electrical engineer, and Taniqua, who is a media person, that's a journalist, a media expert, and marketing. Her expertise is in marketing and communication. And I first want to start with, Liberia. I know both of you in your profile, you mentioned being passionate about going back home, Liberia, to help. Okay, you were born here in the United States, Taniqua. I mean, what is your involvement, or to what extent do you know Liberia? And what is your involvement? I know your parents are Liberian, definitely they will tell you.
So yeah, you're right. I was born here. I was born in New York, in fact, and both of my parents are Liberian born and raised. And I'm involved in the Liberian community here in Georgia. As my profile stated, I serve as the education chairperson for the Liberian Association of Metropolitan Atlanta. So I'm engulfed in Liberian culture. Obviously, I've been back home as well. And so that's kind of the extent of my personal experience with Liberia. But I think in order for us to be able to make some kind of change or to make a mark on the homeland, you have to go back. There's no way that you're going to affect change on a group of people thousands of miles away from them.
Good. And Yawan, unlike Taniqua, who was born here, you were born in Liberia and came here earlier. Yeah. I know you've been involved now with Liberia. Tell me about that.
Well, Liberia is very dear to my heart because there's nowhere like home. So we all wish for Liberia to excel. So one of the reasons that I went into engineering was the infrastructure, especially when it comes to the electric grid. I don't know how was it before the war, but I went back home March, and I believe it was destroyed by the war, but it was destroyed. And the current government is trying her best to try to bring the infrastructure when it comes to the electric grid up to standard, but there's a lot of work to be done. That's where my expertise comes in here. And when I took some note when I was there, especially when it comes to transporting the electricity back into the city. One of the mistakes that they made I saw was, okay, they built a generating facility, but they never had a substation up running where when you generate the electricity, you bring it to the substation. So that right there is why people don't have electricity in Liberia, because they cannot transmit the electricity from the generating facility to bring it to the distribution substation to transmit it to the very customer. So I believe with my expertise in working in that area, I believe it can be helpful to Liberia.
Oh wow. First then, let's dig a little deeper into what you do as an electrical engineer. Okay. Give us some idea, especially and let me know that I first went to college to become an electrical engineer. Okay. Before the war came, and so I have to change.
Okay. As you know, electrical engineering, you have various kind of areas concentration. Like while in school, I concentrated on power generation, which deals with the electricity you receive in your home. So after school, I worked with Alabama Power in Birmingham in the protection and controls department. And once the energy is generated, it comes to distribution substation. You have two types of substation. You have transmission substation and you have distribution substation. Distribution substation is where we, the end customer, will receive our electricity at. So while there, I learned a lot because the transformer is one of the most important components in your substation. So you try by all means, your breakers, your relays, all those things to protect the transformer, because if the transformer goes off, you have customer that will be without power for days. So you will be scrambling to have them have power. So to answer your question, you have various concentration in engineering, and my concentration was in power.
That's good. And let me come to you, Taniqua. I know it's very easy for anyone in Liberia to understand journalism, but I believe it's more than that. Tell us what you do specifically. Walk us through what you do.
Okay, well, I guess kind of a catch-all for what I do is storytelling. I started off in journalism, and I still work in journalism as well, but I also work in marketing, and marketing is storytelling as well. So it's telling the story of people or brands in a way that your target audience can understand it and connect with it, and then buy into it, whether you want them to buy into an idea or you want them to buy into an actual product. And so I think that's the easiest way to understand what I do, and even what journalists do on a deeper level is they tell the stories of people. And there's a special power in media. If you think about countries that have gone in wars or countries with dictatorships, one of the first things that they do is they shut down the media. because there's a certain power in the spreading of ideas. Once you can speak to people and you can tell a story and you get them to buy into a concept or an idea, you have now empowered them to be able to create change. And people are interested in stopping that empowerment, or people who are interested in stopping that empowerment, you know, they move to shut down the media. So that's a basic level of what I do.
Thank you so much, and that's interesting. Now, I know both of you are passionate in doing something in Liberia. What are your ideas of what you can do to kind of play a role in the growth and development of Liberia? What can you do now, or what your ideas are as to what you can do for Liberia? I know you are not politician, you may not have a job, but
as for me,
no, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead, y'all.
Okay, as for me, I'm looking at going into consultancy in Liberia, where I consult for LEC or consult the Liberian government when it comes to energy, because right now, Liberia, we have a good opportunity to leapfrog most of the development that we're doing in other countries when it comes to energy, because the technology for renewable energy is great. So instead of relying on the original electricity, we can go into renewable energy, solar, wind, trash. You can generate fuels from outside, from trash that we produce in Liberia, because we have a lot of it in Liberia. So that we have a great opportunity, but it will require a leader with vision to try to bring Liberians that have worked. You have a lot of great engineers, Liberian engineering in the diaspora, that want to go home, but it's the leadership. But I want to pick it back on a point that I made earlier about the infrastructure. One thing that I also observed was the transmission line. As you can see, places like Florida and other places that encounter a lot of hurricanes, what they are doing now is burying the power line. I think Liberia, and it's less expensive as well too. I think Liberia can seize on that opportunity. Instead of building transmission tower to transmit voltage to the substation, we can bury the transmission line, which would be cost effective for the Liberian government as well.
And you raised an important point about leapfrogging, because that's what happened to Japan after the Second World War. So I was in something like digital. What instead of the traditional books, we can go online. So these are very good ideas. So coming to you, Tanekwa, what are your ideas on what contribution you can make? There's someone asking me to say, what can these young people do for Liberia? I don't know. What are some of your ideas? What are some of the things you think about on ways in which you can contribute towards, our growth and development as Liberians?
Okay, I think for me, one thing that I'm very passionate about is education, and more specifically, women's education. If you look at statistics, Liberia especially, as well as some other African or West African countries, they are in the top 10, and a report just recently came out. If you all want to Google and look, you'll see that Liberia is number 9 in the top 10 countries in the world with low levels of female education. And if you look at statistics, you will see that every time you educate a woman or you educate a young girl, that you then empower the community as a whole, versus when you educate a boy. And that's no disrespect to men, but the numbers just prove that the impact of educating a girl goes further than the impact of educating a man, because of just the responsibilities that women take on. And so I'm just very passionate about offering more educational opportunities for the young women in Liberia. I think before you can even go into any of the other sectors, you have to have a good basic level of education. You cannot become a doctor without the proper schooling. You cannot become an engineer without the proper schooling. But there's no way to even begin to build those types of infrastructures that you were talking about, or be able to build hospitals or anything like that in Liberia, if you haven't given people the opportunity to go and to learn those things so that they can bring it back into their country. And so I want to be able to just offer those opportunities to all of the youth in Liberia. And there are like many of organizations that are on the ground now that are doing a great job with that. I think one thing that people like to do in general, not just Liberians, is we kind of suffer from this creator syndrome. Everybody wants to go and start their own thing. Everybody has to be the leader of something, where there are already organizations that are working towards this and have been working towards this on the ground for years. And so I think it's smart, instead of going there and trying to start your own thing all the time, sometimes it's smart to partner with the organizations that are already doing something. Teach for Liberia is a great organization that's in Liberia right now, where they train teachers to go into the classrooms and, you know, teach young people. I don't know if you've heard of like the Teach for America program, but it's the same kind of structure. And so I think being able to give and to give your talents and your service to some of these organizations, doing these things together will empower us more and kind of help propel the country forward.
And I was particularly excited about this program because I know, and you raised a point, what I was trying to ask you is, you know, how you wish to go about all these ideas. And you mentioned, you know, collaborating with people that are already on the ground. So for Yama, what are your ideas and how you can go about all these ideas? Say you want to consult, but you may not have that connection with government or the connection with whomever that's supposed to be the gatekeeper. What other ideas do you have as to make this dream come true?
It's a fair point you made, because like in Liberia nowadays, you have to know somebody within the system in order for you to do something that is beneficial to the masses. Honestly, I've not really thought about how, if I don't have anybody, how I can go about, because living in America for 20-some more years, I'm used to, if you want to establish a business, you go through the proper procedure, not having to go through all these, not having to go through all these other things. So if the way that in which I do want to go does not work, one other area, like she mentioned, education. I believe we need to encourage the young adult in Liberia to go into science, engineering, and math. So I can, if I do decide to go in Liberia, I can offer my service by hopefully teaching the engineering department, circuit analysis, all the fundamentals to teach the incoming student at the University of Liberia.
About statistics shows 75% of the Liberian population now is people your age and under. And I was in Liberia a week ago. They don't have the same opportunities you have now. They are not successful in their career as you. So in your view, what do you think can be done, or what role can you play?
I think another thing that we're seeing in Liberia right now is we're seeing a lot of people our age, a lot of young people going back and starting businesses or starting initiatives, nonprofit organizations, working in government. And I think the beauty of that is that, you know, those who go back can begin to employ or provide training to some of the people that are I want to say on the ground, but some of the people that are back home who may not also have those opportunities. So we can go in and create those opportunities that may not have been present before. So like Yawan said, if he wants to go back and do some consulting, maybe he opens up a consulting firm and he offers, you know, free workshops for people who are interested in interested in engineering. Or maybe he hires people who are interested in engineering, you know, things like that, to offer them opportunity and exposure, as well as using our education and our experience in our homeland.
I know you, I don't know how many times you've been back, or both of you, but you live in a different culture now. And now when you go back to Liberia, things will be a little different. Okay, and there are people that leave from here, as we learned, and they are not really accepted because there's a cultural shock, or they don't understand what they're doing, or they kind of infringe upon because there are things that they don't understand. To what extent, you know, that cultural competence is going to be a factor when you say you are going back to start a consulting company or to work with Teach for America? How prepared are you for that?
I think one of the issues Liberians have is that work ethics, because you have it in government in Liberia where people go to work, they are now working 4-8 hours that they are being paid for. So when you leave from here and try to go implement the same type of system where people are held accountable, you tend to be looked at in a different way. So I think it would be an issue that we really have to concentrate on, because you have to tell the people, like, you are being compensated to do a job. I'm not trying to come here to pick at anybody. I'm just trying to come here and do my job. So it will seem difficult, but you have to do what's right for the country. Tanika?
To just kind of add on to what he was saying, yeah, you mentioned that sometimes it is a culture shock for people who may have never gone to Liberia or have been back to Liberia after a really long time, and that is true. You know, I think sometimes as Liberians in the diaspora, we like to go back and think, you know, we're this big person and that everybody's going to listen to us or we're going to do all these things, which may not necessarily be true. So I think the first step is we have to go back and listen to the people, like listen to what, you know, their concerns are, listen to what problems or what issues or whatever is going on in the country, because we haven't been there to hear it. And I think the other thing is it's just adjustment. So just like somebody moving from Liberia to America had to adjust to how America works and how the systems go, if you're going to go back, you're going to move back, you know, there has to be some level of adjustment. And then on top of the adjustment, you know, you will bring back that structure or those ideas that you want and kind of mesh the two to hopefully create a good environment where you're raising the standard of living, or you're raising the work ethic, but you're also respecting the culture of your home country.
Good. So right now, what will I know we are not we don't have the power to give you any opportunity in Liberia to say come and try. But what will it take for you to go to Liberia today and work?
Opportunity. It's a job.
Okay, so if someone in Liberia give you the job, you're ready to go?
Well, not exactly.
What do you think, Yawan?
I mean, I'll be honest in terms of, because I want to make this point. When people think about job in Liberia, everybody is focused on the Liberian government. I just early on in my career, I'm not looking to go to Liberia to work for the Liberian government. I feel like the private sector, if I'm offered, we have mental steel in UKPI, and we will need some Liberian engineers, because what happens, most of those guys, they go over there, they import their engineers from their country to go there. So we need competent Liberian engineer on the ground that will work for those companies. So if I'm offered an opportunity in the private sector, yes, that will make a difference in my country, I will go. But if I'm not given that opportunity, I can also go to Liberia as an entrepreneur, because we need to employ people. You have the workforce, we have workforce in Liberia, but there aren't any jobs for the people to do it.
Other countries have some diaspora person who represents the country right here in the diaspora, and what they do is to recruit those kind of talents, especially of young people. I don't know if we have that. I also saw there is a Liberian professional network. When I checked their website, that was very old, you know. So I also sometimes think about a Liberian LinkedIn, something where we can have this pool of Liberian professionals where that can be recruited. What are some of your ideas? Do you still have those same fantasies as I do?
I think that's a good idea, but I think one of the things that can be an issue, or that I believe is an issue right now, is that a lot of these companies in Liberia, especially some of the big companies like Coca-Cola or any kind of big American-based or overseas-based organizations, they tend to look for expats or people that have left Liberia, maybe got educated overseas and then are coming back to hire. And so the people who are born and raised there aren't really getting the job opportunities that they should. So I think in addition to those types of things like forming Liberian professional networks, I think it's important to also provide some kind of training so that people who live there, not just people who are coming back, are able to get the job opportunities. I find that a lot of companies are quick to offer somebody overseas a job and say, come back and work for Liberian government, or come back and work for this organization, or come back and start this thing, and they're not so quick to offer people there a job to come and work for the organization.
That's fair point. That's fair point. And I think it was in 2005 when the new government started. What happened was a lot of people went back home to work. Most of these people have families, and I think what we found out was there was a lot of money paid to them because these people have to upkeep their families right here in the Americas. So I think for young people, I'm not saying because you don't have families yet, so it will be less expensive. But I think, government can look in that direction, or like the Liberian Embassy can look in that direction of looking at people of your age group, that if we have any program, before we had the Peace Corps, this where people, Americans left from there, went to teach. I don't know why we can't have a Liberian Peace Corps like you guys, or some programs along those lines.
I think those programs are there. It's just a matter of, I guess, looking for them, looking into them, being more educated about it, because there are a lot of things available that you may not even be aware of.
If it does exist, it all has to do with funding, because that's the critical issue. So you have to fund those programs in order for it. Because if I have family here and my country is calling me to serve, that's where I also tell people you have to make the decision. Look at your financial status and say, okay, what I'm being offered in Liberia, would that be sufficient to sustain my family back here in the States if I go to Liberia and work where I won't be tempted to be part of the corrupt system? So you have to ask yourself that question. I think that's where most Liberian professionals that leave from here, they do have the good intention to serve that country, but when they get over there, because of what they are being paid is not sufficient, so they tend to be part of the corrupt system.
Good. And if you are watching, this is Focus on Liberia, and we are having a discussion with some young Liberian professionals here in the United States. These are young people have gone to school, they have studied, and they are accomplished in their respective careers. We are discussing, their careers right here in the United States and what contribution they can give to our country. All of them are passionate about going back home and making their contributions, and they are open to opportunities so as they can make their meaningful contribution. If you are watching us by Facebook, you can send your comments. You can also call in the studios. The number will be posted on the screen shortly. So again, we want to welcome those that are watching by way of television across the globe. I have with me Yawan Bato, who is an electrical engineer at a very young age, and also Tanikwa Ross, a marketing and communication expert. Thank you so much for coming. Do you have any final comments?
I'll just reiterate something that I said earlier. I think it's important for all of us, if we say that we want to help our country, that we have to go back and visit, have to go back and talk to people, talk to family, talk to friends. You can't say you want to help a place that you haven't been to in 20 plus years and say that you're going to go back and start something when you don't even know, what the changes are, what has happened. So if you can, or find it and go back home, experience the place, understand it, love it again, and then start to think about what your contributions are going to be.
Yeah, she said it all. I think she makes an excellent point. If you want to be impactful in Liberia, you have to go and see what's on the ground. You can't stay in the United States and then want to send your resources. I will also say this. We have, I know everybody that is doing it are doing it with goodwill, good intention, but we need to put all our resources together. because you can't have John Brown operating with his humanitarian program on the other side, and the objectives are the same. So we need to put our resources together. In that case, would be much more effective in delivering to the people. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's go back home. Try to any other way you can help Liberia. Go back home and assess the situation for yourself. Thank you.
Before I let you go, Taniqua, I have a Facebook question or comments here for you. I know this fellow lived in the United States. He went home, and here's what he's saying. Business marketing is very lacking, and it's important for most businesses in Liberia. How can Taniqua contribute? Somebody has singled you out.
Okay. I agree in that marketing is lacking a little bit in the country, and marketing is important for everything from government all the way down to your nonprofit or your schools or your churches, whatever. I think my contribution, one thing I'm passionate about is not just going back home and creating something or going back home and taking a job, but it's to empower the people to be able to do that on an ongoing basis. So I think for me, one thing that I can do is just share my knowledge, share my expertise with different sectors in hopes that that same knowledge will be transferred down into more people, and that way we can up the level of marketing and communications that's happening in the country. So I'll put this out there if anybody's interested. If that idea sounds good to anybody and they're interested to put the work in behind it, I'm definitely open to have that conversation.
Thank you. There's another person here said, well, said most of the discussion, and that's from Senyene Konwuya. They said the discussion is centered around people here in the diaspora that are educated. But he's saying they are on the ground too. They are experts on the ground too. So what do you have to say to them?
I mean, that's a fair question. That's where, like she mentioned earlier, those of us in the diaspora, when we get there, we need to consult with the expert down there so we can put our resources together and get that point of view on how things work in Liberia. Then from there, we can come up with a better strategy to go forward as to how we can impact the lives of Liberians.
Well, I'm really enjoying myself. I don't want this to stop, but I want to say thank you so much for being my guest on Focus on Liberia. We hope that you can come back again anytime so that we can discuss more. Let's see what is out there, and let's see from our discussion what are the opportunities that are open, and we can take it from there. Thank you so much for coming, and I appreciate your time.
Thank you for providing the platform.
Thank you. In our second segment, we're going to have two beautiful young Liberian professionals who will also come up from different professional backgrounds to discuss more on Focus on Liberia. We will go to our short commercial break, and when we come back, we're going to be talking to a lawyer and a biochemist. Stay tuned.
Liberia is your home. Anything that I do, Liberia is my home. Anything that you do, Liberia is your home. Mama, oh, Papa, oh, sister, oh, dictators and ambassadors for this great breaking nation, Liberia, yeah. Liberia, 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 Liberia is my home. 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 Liberia is his home. The council robber says Liberia is his home. Zach robber says Liberia is his home. ZTT says Liberia is her home. Why you passing with Liberia in his heart? Liberia is my home. Liberia is my home. Liberia is my home. Reflect positive image of Liberia.
Where do you come from? And I say,
Liberia is my home. Liberia is my home. Liberia is my home. Liberia is my home. Anywhere that I go, Liberia is my home. Anywhere that you go, Liberia is your home. Anything that I do, Liberia is my home. Anything that you do, Liberia is your home. Mama, oh, Papa, oh, sister, oh, my brother, oh. We are all representatives and ambassadors for this great breaking nation, Liberia, yeah. Liberia, 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 Liberia is my home. 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 Maritale says Liberia is his home. The council robber says Liberia is his home. Zach robber says Liberia is his home. ZTT says Liberia is her home. Why you passing with Liberia in his heart? Liberia is my home. Liberia is my home. Liberia is my home. Papa, oh, Liberia is my home. Mama, oh, Liberia is my home. Papa, oh, Liberia is my home. Mama, oh, positive image of Liberia.
Liberia is my home. Liberia is my home.
Anywhere that I go,
Liberia is my home.
anywhere that you go,
Liberia is your home.
anything that I do,
Liberia is my home.
anything that you do,
Liberia is your home.
Mama oh, Papa oh, sister oh, my brother oh. Divided we fall, united we shall stay. We are all representatives and ambassadors for this great African nation, Liberia, yeah. Liberia, 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 Liberia is my home. 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 Liberia is my Maritime says Liberia is his home. The council rabble says Liberia is his home. Zach rabble says Liberia is his home. ZTT says Liberia is her home. While you're passing with Liberia in his heart, Liberia is my home. Liberia is my home. Liberia is my home. Papa oh, Liberia is my home. Mama oh, Liberia is my home.
Weekly
Papa
broadcast,
oh, Liberia is
everything
my home.
about and for
Mama
Liberia.
oh,
Welcome to our
Liberia
viewers
is my
across
home.
the globe. We are continuing our segment on discussing with some Liberian young professionals in the United States. In our first segment, we spoke with the media person and also a electrical engineer. Right now, in our second segment, we have an attorney, Patience advocacy. Patience, welcome to Focus on Liberia.
Positive image
We also have
of Liberia.
Mendra Hall. Mendra, welcome to Focus on Liberia. Thank you. And I want to start with Patience advocacy. I love the middle name.
Many times people ask me,
Patience is an attorney at law. She does civil law. She was born in Liberia and relocated to the United States at the age of 8. And she came here with her mom. She has a Bachelor of Art degrees in Political Science and International Affairs from the Florida State University and a Juris Doctor degree from Loyola University in New Orleans College of Law. She's currently an associate attorney at the Gibson Law Firm in Atlanta, Georgia. She's a new mom. Baby is 9 years old. That's baby city. 9 months old. I'm sorry. She's not there yet. Miss Casey owes her success to God, her family, and her desire to be great.
We can get to every one of our partners in the area and make sure we
welcome
have
so much.
opportunities
It's
to impact their
pleasure having you.
ministry
We're honored to have you.
Christ. So we're running medical evangelism and clinics.
I also have Ms. Mendra Hall, another young Liberian professional. She's a researcher. Her first degree is in biochemistry, and her second degree or graduate degree is in public health. Mendra is the first daughter of Dr. Hall and Mrs. Sandra Hall. She has a Bachelor of Science in Biochemistry and a Master in Public Health. She graded in the top 5% of the graduate school class and currently works in research for the National Institute of Health. One of the projects that Mendra works on focuses on prevention of cardiovascular disease and early detection of vascular disease in African American women. She also works on an NIH grant, National Research Mentoring Network, where her efforts aim to increase the number of underrepresented minorities represented in the NIH-funded workforce for hosting training events that help scholars to submit competitive grant proposals to NIH. Mendra's primary focus is on prevention of diseases. She is passionate about educating today's youth on the importance of developing healthy lifestyles and ensuring optimal health outcomes for all people. In her free time, she enjoys reading, exercising, and spending time with her family. Mendra believes she can use her education training experiences to help build a stronger Liberia. She is committed to seeing Liberia restored to the land it once was and is optimistic about a bright future for Liberia. Mendra, we're honored to have you.
Yes, happy to be here.
Thank you. Thank you so much for coming. And first of all, I want to say that you were born here in the United States. Is that correct?
Yes.
So how much do you know about Liberia?
I was born in Liberia and I came here.
Okay, you came here when you were 4 years old. You were born in Liberia, and Patience too came here when she was 8 years old. Okay, I don't want to reveal my age, but I can tell them what I was doing at that time that it came to the United States. But let's start with, I know I read your profile, but just tell us in your own world what exactly you do as an attorney.
Okay, well, my firm is a civil practice firm. We do everything from immigration to real estate, business law, contracts, basically anything except for criminal law. So we have corporate clients, we have individual clients, we have landlords, we have tenants. Actually, one of our clients is the housing department of DeKalb County. So we do a lot of everything for everyone. So that's what mainly I do. And my the part of the job that I like is the transactional part of it, which is basically in the office, drafting contracts, talking to people, negotiating. And my boss is the litigator, so she likes to go to court and fight the judges and do all the fun stuff. I prefer to be in the background.
What got you into law?
You know, now if you're part of an African family, it's either law, medical, or engineering. So medical wasn't happening for me. I remember in high school I went for an internship at the hospital, and I was sick every day, so I was like, I'm not going to medical school. So it was out of engineering or law, and law just appealed to me, and I went for it. I was good at it, and here I am. Thank
you so much. So Mendra, you tell me about what you do as well. I know you came from biochemistry, public health, and then you're working on this research program. Just briefly tell us what you do.
Right. So thank you again for having me here. And I combine my biochemistry and my public health aspect to kind of focus on prevention of disease. And so right now, one of the projects we work on is prevention of cardiovascular disease, but understanding what is happening in the vasculature to predict a future cardiovascular event. So we use non-invasive screening technology to understand the extensibility of the arterial wall, because we see that vascular disease is going to occur prior to the onset of cardiovascular disease. So we try to target, especially minority populations, to have a real impact in the prevention and ultimately the health outcomes in minority populations.
What are some of those vascular diseases, if you give examples so I have an idea?
Right. So vascular disease is just an abnormal functionality of the artery. So what's supposed to happen is that the artery is used to carry blood from the heart to the rest of the body. But when there's a malfunction in it. It's either clogged. Sometimes you can have a clogged artery. Sometimes the wall is not extending as properly as it's supposed to. Sometimes you have an Ebola. Sometimes the blood vessel bursts. And so different things can happen so that the rest of the body is not getting the nutrients that it needs. So it becomes problematic because they're preceding or following problems that can occur when the body is not getting the nutrients it needs.
Yeah. You know, when you are here in the United States going to school and you tell people this is what I'm doing in school, the first thing that comes to their mind is, how is that applicable to Liberia? Can you use that? Or you are doing something that only can be done in the United States? So for your career, how can we use that in Liberia?
Right. So health, honestly, is critical to every population. So without healthy people, you can't educate them. You can't send them to school. You can't send them to train the future generation. So health is definitely a top priority, and ensuring that our youth are healthy when we send them to school and we send them out into the workforce. We need to make sure that our vulnerable populations are healthy and have the best access to healthy to resources that can ensure good health outcomes.
Thank you. That's beautiful. And our attorney for civil law, you know, in Liberia, that's very popular, you know, law. When I was in Liberia a week ago, I visited the law school, and I even made presentation to 2 of those classes, and they are full with people, you know. So if you were to go to Liberia today, what will you be doing? You know, how can you really be part of the system? Is there a place for you looking at so many lawyers? Or, you know, the way I look at it from someone who is not a lawyer is like, we have so many lawyers in Liberia. What will patients be doing, or do we need patients at all?
Okay. Similar to what she said, of course, law is a part of every society. So from my thinking, you're saying that there's so many lawyers, but even though there are a vast majority of lawyers, I think my focus would be on educating the population as to what their rights are, as far as civil liberties, constitutional law. I mean, when we go to law school, we're all there because we want our clients, the population, to have a voice. Your constitution, your government, whoever is leading that country or that entity, there are certain rules that they have to follow to make sure that there's law and order. So I would like to be more active in training the population on what their rights are, you know, and also not just the general population, but as far as those who carry out the laws. For instance, the police officers, law enforcement. I mean, there's, I'm sure, a lot of disconnect with the population as far as what their rights are, and disconnect with the police force, for instance, on how they should be protecting the population instead of bringing it harm or, you know, putting people in jail that shouldn't be there. Or it's just an educational thing to just start with, not just to go in and say, you know, you should be doing this, you should be doing that, but just an educational basis just around the country to let everybody know these are your rights and this is how you carry it out, and you're here to protect and serve, and this is how you do that.
Good. Thank you. I know before we even go deep into your respective careers, I just want to look at you as someone who came here when you were 8 years old, and Mildred came here when she was 4 years old. So you have all this, the Liberian culture and the American culture. How is that experience? You know, even though it's good to be, you know, the best of both worlds, but I know it also comes with its own challenges. What has your experience been?
Right. So I grew up in a Liberian household, but was educated in an American system, right? So you had to, the worlds kind of clashed when you saw other people doing a certain way, and then at home it's like, no, respect for parents is the ultimate. You go to school, and it's a little different. But I think the values that you learn at home really carry you through and make you who you are in society. Your love for country, your respect for your parents, your strong-knit community make you who you are, and they make you stand out when you do go out into the American society here, and you can stand on those principles to stand out and make a difference. It definitely adds value to what you bring to the table when you present who you are.
Patient, any experience you want to share?
I definitely agree with what she said, and for me it's kind of a balancing act, because on the one hand, in Liberia you are seen as not Liberian enough. In America you're not really American, but you're not Liberian. So it's a balancing act to say I can be both of these things. I can be Liberian, I can be raised in the American system, and I can have my identity and I can identify with both, and I can contribute to both societies. So as same with what she said, what you learn at home is what you carry out outside. So my Liberian values, my Liberian upbringing is something that is very core to me. You know, first and foremost, when I introduce myself to somebody, they ask me where are you from, I say I'm Liberian. That's on the table already. But you know, to me explaining who I am to a Liberian, they're like, no, you're American. You've been in America for so long, you don't know how it is over here. And at the end of the day, I have to identify with both places, and there's no limitations on what I can be. I can be both Liberian and American. So I take the good in both cultures and I apply it to myself, and you know, be the best I can be at both.
And that's true. I listened to like my guest who was here before, Taniqua, when she spoke at a program, she talked about how, you know, the Liberian experience of going to cut your own switch. So now you've grown down, and I know you are not cutting your own switch anymore.
No.
But now even in your profession, I know you still have that cultural clash, or still trying to figure out who you are in your professional world, even as you try to work as an adult now.
Yeah.
Do you have any experience with that?
Yeah, it's a balance between viewing yourself as a child and viewing yourself as an adult when you go out into the workforce. Because when you're at home, you're always a child. And when you go out, there are certain expectations that you need to make sure you perform at a certain level. And so making that transition from viewing yourself as a child and respecting your elder, to going out and you are an adult, so performing at that level.
I agree.
Okay, so that's a good one. So I know both of you are passionate about Liberia. What currently is your involvement with Liberia, the Liberian organizations, or even back home in Liberia? What does your involvement look like?
Yeah, so I came when I was 4, and unfortunately, I have not had the opportunity yet to revisit, but I do. I am involved in LAMA here, the Liberian Association of Metropolitan Atlanta, and so we host different events. And my dad is a part of the Liberian Association of Athletes. And so whenever those events occur, I am involved with those in different community aspects and different community programs.
Yes, and I know Patient's involvement with LAMA has our... you talk about it, Patient.
Well, I was heavily involved with LAMA, but I had to take a step back for personal reasons, but I was involved in the legal aspect of specifically trying to revamp the Constitutional Review Committee. But like I said, I had to take a step back for personal reasons, but I'm always willing to be involved in the community. I'm part of a nonprofit called The Power to Do Something, which focuses on education. We work with orphanages, providing supplies and whatnot in Liberia. I left in 1996. The first time I went back to Liberia was 2009. And I went back through a internship, service-ship sponsored through my school at the time, Florida State University. And I worked with Youth Action International, which is headed by Kimmy Weeks. And I did internship there for about 2 or 3 months. That summer was a very eye-opening experience. I mean, can you imagine leaving at 8 years old and going back when you're like 20, 22 or so? And it was just, I didn't know anything anymore. Everything was just different. And then that challenge you spoke of earlier of being Liberian and American, because on one hand, when I was with my colleagues, the colloquia came out But then when we're around Americans or white people, then the series comes out. So, you know, it's a balancing act, and I was in the middle of that, and it was just interesting of how things change and how you change from 8 years old to now you're a woman, you're trying to do something for your people. But I'm always interested in going back to Liberia right now. I think my focus is on developing myself professionally, developing myself personally, you know, building a family, and ultimately at the right time, when the right opportunity is presented, I will be ready to go back and do what I can for Liberia.
Okay. I don't want to draw you into politics. Liberia just had elections. Okay, I think they're still counting the ballots. Yeah. Okay, I know you've heard about that. Mm-hmm. Okay, mind sharing some perspective? Someone was asking me who won the election. I said, well, we are not on the elections. But just, have you heard anything about the elections, or what's your perspective? What had transpired? Who you think, you know, what kind of leader you're looking for? How is that going to fit into your overall, or what you want to do for Liberia? So what is it that you're looking for, and your perspective on our elections and the outcome?
Yeah, so I've heard a little bit about the elections and who the candidates are. So a leader that I would be interested in is someone who has a vision for seeing the people grow and develop and become to their maximum potential. So who is more concerned about the people than as far as making a profit at the end of the day or getting their cut. And so I think when we have a visionary who is interested in the electrical engineering or the journalism or the law, the health sector of actually benefiting the people, then we have a leader who will actually take Liberia to that next level.
Thank you. Patient, I have a question here for you.
Okay.
On Facebook. It says, first it says, good presentation there. Patient, if you were to come to Liberia today to form part of the country's justice system, how would you reconcile this no justice for the poor and right to equal access to justice?
Okay, like I said earlier, I think the first place I would want to start is, first of all, educating the population on what their rights are. Because you can't really say you are doing something wrong to me if you don't know exactly what it is that they're doing and how to go about it. For instance, I know as a woman, you know, rape is a sensitive issue, but if there's no system in place where a woman can feel confident to report rape, report harassment, even in the workplace, not just, you know, actual sexual harassment, just harassment in general, just because she's a woman, and things happen, and you know, people don't get punishment that they deserve. I mean, if I'm not going to feel comfortable reporting rape, reporting abuse, then why would I report it? So there has to be some kind of system that encourages that knowing at the end of the day, if I go to someone and say, this person did something to me, what are you going to do about it? And trusting that person is actually going to go ahead and do something about it, then I'm more confident in reporting it. I'm more confident in encouraging other women to come forward. So that way that rape culture and all that can get, you know, better.
So now both of you, you know, you're open for opportunities in Liberia. You are passionate of doing something, you know. If someone who is in a position of power in Liberia today is listening to you or is watching this show, what will you tell them as regards, you know, incentivizing your return home or doing whatever they can or the country can to make sure that young professionals like you, you know, have a role to play, or you have doors open for you to make a meaningful contribution? What will you tell someone listening to us?
I would say, like you said in your question, open the door. Right. You know, I know you asked the earlier panelists, you know, how would you go about finding opportunities? We don't know where the opportunities are. They're not really presented to us, and I'm not just talking about us here in the U.S. I want to focus on those that are there, because they're the ones that are there day in and day out. They don't have the jobs, they don't have the opportunities. So if the opportunities are out there, open it up to those that are on the ground first. Train them if you have to. They need those opportunities. I have opportunities here that they don't have access to. So you're giving me an upper hand on everything, because I have opportunities here in America, and then you're saying I have opportunities there in Liberia. But what about those that are only in Liberia, that they can't come over here and access my opportunities.
Right.
So that's what I would encourage. Get those on the ground. If you need me to go help and train, if you need me to contribute as a consultant or whatever the case may be, until I'm in a position to actually head and lead something, then I would say focus on those there and see what they need to advance in their careers.
What's for you, Mandra? What do you tell someone?
Definitely opportunity, because we need opportunities to be able to make a real impact, whether it's training the youth, training teachers to be able to impact the youth, training future lawyers or attorneys to be able to make the ground fertile to nurture growth. Because without that, even if there is passion there and there's not an environment that nurtures growth or progression, especially for women, then it's going to be subsided and there's not going to be opportunity. So like she was saying, the focus on the people there. So any opportunity, and I think it was said earlier about funding to actually support a lifestyle and a family there, but definitely just to open the door and to create an environment where we can actually make a real impact that's sustainable for future generations.
And it's very important that you mentioned that about those back there, because it's, as I said to the earlier panelists, is the population there is a lot of young people your age, and they don't have the opportunities you have. The school system is not really, training the kind of, workforce that you would expect for this time in the history of our country. So young people most of them are there doing nothing. I was there during the elections, and rallies were so packed, and I asked, why are the people so passionate about who becomes president, about who becomes representative? And they are always there. They say, well, there's nothing to do, so people look forward to this kind of thing so that they can have something going on. So I want you to also talk to the young people in Liberia right now. They are your age group. They may understand you better than they understand me.
Like I tell my uncles back in Liberia, I mean, I know the opportunities that we have are not there, and we know what the playing field is. We may not be on the ground, but we have an idea. So if there's no opportunity, sometimes you have to, as they say, hustle. I mean, if there are internships out there, there's nonprofit organizations. It might not be exactly what you want, but you can use anything as a stepping stone. Education. I mean, as best as you can, focus on your education. If you have to shake some hands, meet some people, I mean, you have to kind of, even here when you're in school, they encourage you to go out, meet people, market yourself, socialize. If you see someone at a place that you want to be, connect with that person, learn from them, see how they got to where they are. The opportunities may not be the same, but whatever little opportunity comes your way, go ahead and take it. Don't think that you're too big, to do an internship for a few months unpaid. I mean, you never know who you could meet at that organization, or who you could speak to, or who could see you doing work, and they could encourage you to get a permanent position or do something else that you really want to do. So,
yeah, I would definitely echo those thoughts about learn all that you can. Every opportunity you have to learn. Take that opportunity to learn. Focus on your education. Do as well as you can, and network. I think the key that she was talking about is networking. Expand who you know and who knows you, because a lot of times it comes down to who can speak on your behalf in a place of power and influence. So expose yourself to different things and network.
There's a lot we don't understand, if you're not in Liberia. As I said, I've been away for some time too. One simple thing I did not understand until I got in Liberia was everybody, when they give you their cell phone number, they give you 2 numbers. So I was saying, okay, the people should be rich. The people should have a lot. I mean, everybody has 2 phones. But when I got to Liberia, and you have this, the orange or the old Cellcom, and you have Lone Star. So in order to be able to talk to a Lone Star, you need Lone Star phone. So most of their phones have 2 SIM cards. So you have, and it's just little money. When I got there, I bought my little phone for $10, and then you have a $1 chip here and there. So that's the only way you can talk. So when I got there, it became very clear to me. I have been kind of, I don't want to say bad-mouthing them in such a way, but I've not understood until I got on the ground. So as we talk, you know, sometimes we say some beautiful things when we're here, but when you get on the ground, it's different. Yeah. So I know it's going to be different for you when you get there. Now, Patience, someone is asking you here, I told you there are a lot of lawyers in Liberia, so they're going to ask you a lot. It said, Patient has a civic law attorney. I believe you can be an asset to Liberia. But how do you reconcile the two different constitutions? I believe it's the American Constitution and the Liberian Constitution. What might be illegal here is probably legal in Liberia. So how do you juxtapose, that's a big word, between the two systems?
I mean, it's not a difficult thing to do. Liberia's constitution is different from America's, but it's very similar because, you know, America is Liberia's, what is it called, stepchild or?
No, friend.
Friend, okay. So I don't really see an issue with bringing them together, but you're right in saying that what is legal here is not the same over there. So when you're in a society, like they say, when in Rome, you do as the Romans do. So I would interpret the law as I would here. If there's something that's legal here, you interpret it legally here. If there's something in Liberia that's legal there, you interpret it legal there. But if there's an issue of just because something is legal doesn't mean it's right. So if that's the concern, that just because something is legal is not right, then that's when you have to get into actually litigation and reforming and passing laws that are right and that do go to the heart of the people and the rights of the people. So if that's the issue of what is right and what is wrong, that's different from saying what's legal and what's illegal.
That's a legal answer. Mildred, I know your graduate degree is in public health. There was a public health crisis in Liberia when Ebola hit, and also other epidemic that may come up. So let's pick your public health side and talk to us about how I know you heard of Ebola and what could have been done, or how do you think Liberia now can prepare for another outbreak of an epidemic?
Right, so it starts out with the healthcare infrastructure, and we should focus on prevention, like we were saying. So with Ebola, we look at the mechanism of the transmission of the disease, and so it transmits through direct contact and bodily fluids. So it easily is transmitted because when you touch someone's sweat or you switch body fluids like blood and things like that, it's easily transmitted from one person to the next. So when we talk about preventing that, we want to, it's easy to want to take care of someone who we see suffering because most of the time that's our loved one. But a lot of the times, isolation is the key because we don't want to spread the disease more rapidly to another person. So isolation and then getting that person to the proper treatment. And a disease that's easily transmitted only by direct touch is easily contained, but once we let that person have access to so many different other people, it's an exponential growth in transmitting to a different individual. So definitely proper and training physicians, training people who are knowledgeable about the different transmission of disease, and making sure that when we understand that transmission of disease, we do everything to protect ourselves from being contaminated. And then sanitation is also key. Just proper hygiene, just practicing proper hygiene in day-to-day lifestyle, so that way, if that comes, we also are protecting ourselves with clean drinking water and sanitation.
That's good. Thank you so much. Now, Liberia's system, what one issue that people who come from America face when they get to Liberia is they tell you where you work, you have system, so it's very easy. Here in Liberia, there's no system. Okay, so you are starting from scratch, and so if you get there, you find out that there's on-the-job training. You can start any job here and succeed because you do on-the-job training and the rest of it. Over there is none. sometimes, I can say there is none, but sometimes you don't have even where to start from. So as you think about making that contribution, how well are you prepared to get in a system where nobody's know what's going on and you have to really start from scratch? How prepared are you for that kind of thing?
I don't know if I'm that prepared, but I would say it's going to take a lot of patience, no pun intended. It's going to take, humility, because you're basically coming as an outsider. As far as me, I haven't been there for so many years. Even my last visit, it wasn't that long, so I wasn't really, into the system as somebody who lives there. So it's going to take me to kind of sit back, observe, listen to those who are there. Even if I don't agree with how they do things, at the end of the day, you have to assimilate. You have to be a part of the system if you want them to gain their trust, to gain your confidence in whatever you're doing. And along those lines, I would encourage those entrepreneurs who are ready, willing, and able to go back right now to open up, hiring agencies, staffing agencies, where you are able to get somebody off the street, get somebody who doesn't have proper education, train them for that job, take them to the employer and say, this person is ready to work right now. They know computer skills, they know how to answer phones, they know how to use a typewriter, they know about social media, they know this, they know that. So that way you already come with a prepared package, somebody who's willing to work. So that way, maybe these employers who are coming and bringing those workers from outside, they don't have an excuse no more to say, well, you are not trained, you guys don't have workers. So I would encourage those entrepreneurs who are interested in that kind of stuff to, build up hiring agencies, training agencies, to train the population, and not just, all about you have to get a degree, you have to be in government, you have to do this, you have to do that. That's not just one way to succeed. We have to make opportunities and give people options.
Yeah, great point. And then you want to add to that?
Yeah, just making sure you understand what on the ground looks like, because like we said, if you are in the diaspora and you really don't have an understanding of what the current situation is, the impact is limited as opposed to someone who is on the ground trying to have their boots on the ground and making a real effort in making the changes that are going on.
Well, I don't want to pretend that even though you are in the diaspora and you are accomplished in your career, I don't want to pretend that that's the same with every young Liberian in the diaspora. Okay, there are some who are not taking advantage of the opportunities here. What do you say to those people if you have them, sometime in your neighborhood? What words? Because you've come here at the age of 8 and 4. You have parents, and you were able to make it. What's your secret, and what can you tell other Liberians who at your age who have the same opportunity but really did not make use of it?
So I have been fortunate to have a good support system, and I think that has been really critical in moving through the system here. So I would encourage those who are trying to make it, identify people who are in a position to help you, and we go back to marketing yourself, but also seeing those who are where you want to be. And people are out there who are willing to help you, who are willing to make opportunities, right? This is America, the land of opportunity. So you have to, sometimes it's a risk. Sometimes you have to put yourself out there, and there's no guarantee all the time. But you got to start with educating yourself here, making yourself marketable, and just reaching out to people who are where you want to be. Make sure you have a good support system, because the road is not always easy. There are ups and downs and challenges along the way. So make sure you identify where you want to go and set a goal, because it's easy to have several interests along the way, and a lot of things can set your tap into your interest, but have the end goal in mind and figure out the steps that it's going to take to get there. And so you take it one day at a time, one step at a time, and there are going to be pitfalls along the way. It's not going to be a smooth sail
all the time, but you identify where you want to go and just continue to reach out to those who are where you are and see who is willing to help you where you are to help you reach your goal.
Patient?
I agree 100%. I mean, when I think about how I didn't give up in college and law school, it was always me thinking about what my end goal was. I knew I wanted to have a certain level of income in society. I knew I wanted to have certain kind of influence in society. I knew what my end goal was, and I chose which path I wanted to take to get there. So like she said, you have to have that end goal in mind. If you don't have an end goal, then it'll be easy for you to give up. You're going to wake up and say, I don't feel like going to work today. I don't feel like going to class today. But once you say, no, I need to do this because I need to be making this kind of money, or I need to do this because I need my kids to have something to look up to. I need to do this because I need to be a representative of Liberia. And if I say I'm from Liberia, I should be proud to say I'm from Liberia. And I want my other, my family to be proud of me. And all of that, like she said, comes to an end goal. If you don't have an end goal, there's not much you have to focus on. You have to want it for yourself. Your mother is going to want it, your father, your brother, your sister, but you're the one that's going to have to put yourself out there. You have to stand out. An example for me in school, being in all white schools, most of my education is either I was the only black person or the only African. So it was that matter of I had to stand out. If I wasn't the smartest in the class, maybe I studied a little bit harder than everybody else. If I wasn't the smartest, maybe I went to the teacher and said, this is what I'm struggling with, how can you help me? Or like she said, if I saw someone that was in a position that I wanted to be in, I reach out to that person and say, hey, can you mentor me? How did you do it? Things like that are something to propel you and help you along the way.
Okay, maybe it's a personal question. Do you guys make a lot of money?
Not as much as everybody thinks.
Oh, okay.
I'm just at entry level, so I'm building up my profile to get there.
Okay.
Not where I want to be, but I'm at a good place of where I am right now.
We're pushing, like she said, one day at a time.
Yeah.
Okay, if you guys get to that money, please let me know. So now, I'm excited about this. As I said it before, I'm so excited, that people as at your age, you started with your career, and the sky is your limit as where you can reach. But as we come to almost the end of the show, I want to just get your final comments. As a young professional, your role in Liberia, what you intend to do, and how you think, what the opportunities, those kind of opportunities that you're looking for in Liberia, and what are some of the programs that you think can help you to kind of be that springboard into really what you want to do for Liberia. If we can conclude the final comments as I monitor Facebook for any comments.
Yeah, so some of the programs, like I think a reoccurring theme is get connected to education programs. I think that's going to be the key for the future, and looking at where Liberia is going, I think we need to make sure that our youth are taken care of and they have the opportunities and the environment to support whatever dreams and aspirations that they look up to. And also good role models, because a lot of times people see themselves as who they see in society and in the world. And a lot of times we want to, as young people, we want to replicate what we see and who we deem as influential or powerful or successful. And so I think it's important for us as future leaders to be good examples and be good role models for the youth coming up, so that they have something to aspire to want to be. And like we said, connect with those programs that are already in existence. Don't go and recreate the wheel, build and make a car. Build on top of what is already going on there. So definitely we want to reach back and take advantage of things that are already happening there.
All right. Please put on the people. There are people who want to call the show, so please put on the number. The number to call is 404-300-3925. Again, if you want to call the studio, please call 404-300-3925. And you can ask questions to even our previous guests and the current guests. As we go to Patient, if you have another comment.
Since we're in election season, I will end it with saying that regardless of who is the final, leaders, representatives, senators, vice president, president, I would really encourage the people of Liberia on the ground to pressure them to do what they say they are going to do, hold them accountable, and not just holding government accountable, but you hold yourself accountable. If this is your year or next year or whatever the case may be, for you to go ahead and open up a business or finish your schooling or just be serious about whatever it is that you're passionate about, go ahead and do that, because it's a lot of times we look at what other people are doing and we never focus on what we are doing for ourselves and for our families and for Liberia. So I would end that to say, stay encouraged, keep pushing, and make sure you hold those you put in place accountable for what they need to do.
Thank you. And we have a caller coming in. I have a comment here on Facebook, and I think we covered that. This is from my colleague Wula. He said, probably I joined in late. My question is, how connected to Liberia are they, and are they willing to go back home someday? My colleague, the answer is yes.
Yes.
But I want the girls to say that.
Yes, we may be disconnected as far as not being on the ground, as we've alluded in our answers, but of course we're always willing and ready and able to go and contribute in as much as we can.
Sure.
Yes, we are willing to go back and help with the efforts already going on in Liberia.
Thank you. Do we have a caller on the line?
Yeah, caller, go ahead.
Yeah, how you doing? My name is knuckles-guishard from the Parliament, and I'm monitoring the show, and there are three things I just want to say to the two young and beautiful kids in studio. I think we talked about the encouraging people to achieve what they want to. And I think we as a Liberian, first and foremost, want to say thanks to dr.nya and you for this program.
That's part of the question.
We need to encourage and so I don't want to have that
Thank you, Chinabo. Thank you so much for your contribution. Thank you. And we're back. If there's a beep, is there any caller on the line? And we appreciate the call. Please call us. The number is right there on the screen, 404-300-3925.
Oh. Y'all need to come back. He didn't put it up there.
Go ahead with your question, caller.
Yeah. I'm just calling in to basically say thank you to the moderator, Mr. dr.nya, and the beautiful and very inspiring young ladies. My name is Macaulay Boy, and I...
Can you call it? Where you calling from? Your name, please, and your location.
Macaulay Boy, I'm calling from Minnesota.
Go ahead, Mike.
Go ahead, caller.
Yeah. Like I was saying, I am proud of them, and I kind of encourage them to continue to do what they are doing. As Liberia, and I am proud of them. I always crave to see young Liberians making the most out of the opportunities that are available in America to get the best out of it. And I am proud to see a researcher and a lawyer. And I hope that someday, like I previously asked, they can go back home and be able to contribute to Liberia. There are a lot of needs back home in terms of lawyers. We need lawyers, we need researchers, we need educators. We need every career skill. So I hope they can go back home someday to contribute. And I want to lastly say, Mr. Job, thank you so much. I hope you can continue this program. And I guess we can all be supporting factor to this endeavor. So thank you again.
Thank you. And my guests appreciate you. Okay, callers, just in case you missed our first two guests, that was Yawan Bato, the electrical engineer, and Tiniqua Ross, the journalist and marketing person. So if you have questions, comments for them, you can still ask. We still have them in studio, and they can respond. So, all right. So we were doing our closing comments when the calls came in, and we are really getting some beautiful comments on our Facebook. So we want to appreciate all of you who are watching us by television, also on Facebook Live, on TV International, or you are listening to us on the radio. We want to appreciate you and say thank you so much for being a part of this show. Focus on Liberia is every Sunday at 7 p.m. We do ads. We count on your support and your patronage as we continue to keep this on. Once again, I want to appreciate my guests, and that's Ms. Mendra Hall, Ms. Patience Casey, and even our previous panelists that were here, Yawo and Tiniqua. On behalf of Focus on Liberia, I want to say thank you so much for watching. Stay tuned, come back next week, Sunday, 7 p.m., same time, same station, and we'll be here. God bless you, and good night.
Bye-bye.
Did you answer the man's marriage proposal? You didn't even say, do you have a boyfriend? It's straight to marriage. Yeah, straight to marriage. You already wanted to bring the bride price. You don't want to look around?
No.